Hello and welcome back to the Morrissey and Wine podcast. Now, Chris, this is actually a special edition because it marks 1 year since I started the Morrissey Mercury fanzine.
So congratulations.
Thank you. The Morrissey Mercury is the evil conglomerate umbrella corporation that owns the podcast and the WhatsApp and the Instagram and the Twitter. I've got some Prosecco to celebrate. How are you doing?
Hi. How are you doing, George?
I'm fine, thank you.
You're very happy to be doing it for a year now?
I am.
I can't believe you kept it up. It's quite impressive.
I know. Yeah. I'm impressed with myself. And I've done the washing up, as you've just seen.
Yeah, you did. That's the first time for a while.
Yeah. So everything's on the up. And anyway, I've got some Prosecco to celebrate.
Okay, so not just white or red this time.
No. And this isn't even going to be a sound effect. It's going to be the real thing. I'm going to pop the cork.
You're putting a tea towel over it?
Well, yes. Safety first. Whee! Party! Can you do that? Watch Frank. You do a good impression of Frank saying party.
Oh yeah, like at Manchester.
Party.
Yeah.
When
I first started in Manchester, my first job, the caretaker on the housing estate where I worked, he had the strongest Manchester accent. It was really cool.
It does tend to happen in Manchester.
He did drive me around the estate, and I was sort of looking after a few of the leasehold properties. And I was only 21, and he sort of pointed at, said there was a shooting over there, and there was a shooting over there. And I didn't think he was trying to scare me, but it did.
Well, cheers.
Oh, that wasn't a very good clip.
It sounded like plastic. These aren't plastic cups. These are glasses, flutes. But anyway, yeah. Cheers. This is Sainsbury's. Gone down Mars.
The wrong hole.
Sorry.
No one says.
Yeah, Sainsbury's Taste the Difference Prosecco, £8. Celebration. It's been a year. I mean, we'll be doing the podcast this is our 4th episode, and we're doing it once a month. The fanzine obviously has been going on for longer, but anyway, just thought I'd get some Prosecco to celebrate. And let's just explain why we're doing this podcast a little bit. Because we were talking about this the other day, like we enjoy it, but sometimes you have to define why you're doing it. And for me, it's just because just because we're a bit thick. No, just because we love Morrissey and the Smiths. Obviously, it would be a weird podcast if we didn't, but we have that.
You just love wine.
Yeah.
Morrissey's just the consolation.
Yeah, the snack on the side. Yeah, we love Morrissey and the Smiths. I think it's about like. You know, when a singer like Amy Winehouse or whatever has died, you think, I wish we'd have appreciated her more while she was alive and we could have seen her, right? Like, we're living at the same time as Morrissey and we can go and see him at gigs and stuff, and that's special. And part of me wants to bring more people into that fandom and to celebrate it and just say it's a cool thing. Why are you doing it?
Similar reasons, really. Obviously, the passion, and like you say, feel very lucky that we're on the earth at the same point as someone like Morrissey, and I suppose also some practice as well to get used to doing this. So,
before you move on to Joe Rogan's podcast or something.
Yes, yeah. Well, I think they're going to start one about Elton John. So,
okay. Maybe you can tell us when you finish quaffing your Prosecco what's coming up.
So coming up, we have the world-renowned astrologer and best-selling author Jessica Adams, who talks to us from Australia to reveal what's in Morrissey's horoscopes and tarot, and also hopefully predicting when the bloody album's going to come out, or at least some shows. Yeah,
and you haven't heard the interview yet, but there is some hints on that front, and they're really interesting.
Okay, I'm not necessarily a believer, but I'm interested and I'm open, and I think at this point we cling to any hope we can.
Yeah.
We'll discuss the latest news from the world of Morrissey and the Smiths. The quiz is back. This time, George is the quiz master.
Yeah.
You've got 10 questions for me.
10 questions and some banging theme music that I found online for the quiz.
Okay. So it's not The Weakest Link. It's not Who Wants to Be a Millionaire.
No.
Okay.
It's better than anything you've ever heard.
Oh, no. We have Nanny Val's back.
Yeah.
So in this time, which song is she?
She is doing I Have Forgiven Jesus. And when I mentioned which song it was to her, she just kind of perturbed. I don't think that was a phrase that she's ever heard before. I have forgiven Jesus.
She thought you maybe were born again.
Yeah. But anyway, that's coming up indeed.
Then myself and you, George, will recommend something that if you love Morrissey, you'll also love this. So maybe a book, a TV show, something like that.
Yeah.
And then finally we'll dissect the meaning of 3 songs and what they mean to us, and maybe a bit of trivia about them. This month's songs, this podcast songs, are Tony the Pony, I Am Not a Man, and These Things Take Time. One of my favourite Smith songs, that is.
Yeah, that's probably that or What She Said. They're my possibly two favourite Smith songs. Now, before we go into news from the world of Morrissey, I wanted to entertain you with my roll call of rejection. It's all the people that I've asked to come on the podcast, famous people.
I think that, George puts a lot of effort into making the podcast happen and making the fanzine happen. You don't have to nod so agreeably. And I think that I just turn up and have the wine and talk, but you do put a lot of effort into it. And there's, obviously, we've had some great guests, but there's been some guests that haven't quite replied.
No. Well, first on the list is Nancy Sinatra.
Okay.
So she followed me back on Twitter. So I thought, great, I can DM her. So I said, Ms. Sinatra, is there any chance you would come on to talk about Morrissey? Now, what I've noticed with a lot of these people is that there ends up being beef with Morrissey, and that's why they probably don't want to do this. You know, like Sandy Shaw, that's another one that I asked.
Yeah, but compared to the others on the list you're going to go into, Nancy is a real legend,
an
icon. You know, she lives in Hollywood. I think she probably would be the tougher one to get to, maybe. I don't know.
No, but like, what's she doing? I don't know.
She's quite old as well.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was getting at, but I didn't want to be ageist. She's probably busier than I'll ever be in my life. So anyway, train. When a train goes by, it's such a sad sound. Okay, I'll talk over the train. Next up, Jo Brand. Her agent was really nice, but she said, and they don't have to be nice, but she said, she's a bit busy, she's got a lot on, so she can't do it. Okay. Julian Clary.
So you tried Julian Clary, and he couldn't find an opening for you anyway.
He couldn't. No.
Okay.
There was no openings along his passage.
Which
no, if you don't know who Julian Clary is, he loves innuendo. We're not just being smutty for the sake of it. Frank Skinner.
Okay.
That was just no reply, but whatever. Okay. Frank's a busy man. Jane Horrocks. I was really hoping for Jane, and maybe one day we'll get her, because I love Ab Fab.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
You saw her once, didn't you? At the Star and Garter?
Well, she was there once, but I've known... My favourite film growing up was The Witches.
Yeah.
And she played the sort of witch that turned good.
Yeah.
Which was really cool, and she obviously acted there with Angelica Houston, Mr. Bean, all good actors.
Yeah. Who else is on my list of rejection? J.K. Rowling. You know, I know she's a controversial figure. I strongly believe you need to hear all sides of arguments. You know, there has to be free and open debate. Oh my God, that was a train horn.
Pardon you, George.
Was he agreeing with me? I don't know.
He's a fan.
Yeah.
I think train drivers are a bit right wing.
So anyway, and who are we to turn our nose up? If she said yes, as if I was going to go, no, we won't have you on because, you know, you're in a culture war.
Yeah.
Anyway, J.K. Rowling's agent did reply. He said no, thank you. So that was nice. Mike Joyce, we've asked. Now that might happen.
We could corner him on Saturday night.
Yeah, he's going to be at Moz Army, so we could ask him again. And finally, Sir Keir Starmer.
A Knight of the Realm.
A Knight of the Realm, soon to be probably the Prime Minister of Great Britain.
Yes.
And Northern Ireland. So yeah, they're all the people that said no, and I just thought that might tickle you.
Yeah, no, that's great. Yeah, keep up the list. Yes, I'm tickled.
Okay.
Yes.
And next we have news from the world of Morrissey. So, starting with the biggest news, Morrissey has announced 2 new gigs to launch the July release of the Beethoven Was Deaf remaster. Now, that's coming out on Friday, July 26th. So, when Morrissey says these 2 new gigs is to launch the July release, we would presume the gigs are going to be in July.
Hopefully. Yeah.
Obviously, we're cutting it a bit fine. It's the weekend of 11th and 12th of May when we're recording this. Now, Beethoven Was Deaf was recorded, I believe, in Paris, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So we think probably one of the gigs will be in Paris.
Yeah, hopefully both. But I suspect maybe one in Paris, one in London.
Yeah, I feel like one in London, one in Paris, because I know a lot of people do follow Morrissey around and can travel, but we're getting quite short notice to get that time off work and to travel and to do that stuff.
We're Morrissey fans, we're used to short notice.
Yeah, I suppose. Short notice announcing gigs and short notice cancelling them sometimes. Burn. So anyway, that is really good news. I'll definitely be going to one of them. I hope one is in London because it'd be a bit easier for me.
Paris is lovely though.
Yeah, expensive though, innit?
Yeah.
So anyway, our next item, Christopher.
So Morrissey has paid the exit fee for World Peace Is None of Your Business and Bonfire of Teenagers, which is great news because obviously we currently can't get the both of the songs from both of those on Spotify or anywhere else really, unless you've got the World Peace CD and burn it or something. So that'll be great news.
Yeah, so World Peace Is None of Your Business. You can, or probably a few people have uploaded the whole album to YouTube, so you can listen to it on there. I think I've got the CD somewhere, but my CD player's broken, so I usually listen on YouTube. Although, of course, Bonfire of Teenagers, that just hasn't been released at all.
Just got the beautiful live versions.
Yeah. Yeah, and those live versions are good, and I'm excited to hear the album.
Me too, really. That's such an amazing album.
Yeah. So anyway, the state of play is Morrissey was locked in a legal battle with Capitol Records. Another train. Legal battle with Capitol Records, which kind of involved Miley Cyrus, which I think is the best kind of legal battle you can have. Now it's been resolved. Morrissey has paid the exit fee, as he called it, to Capitol Records. He's got his new album back, and now it's a question of, is he going to flog it to a legacy record label, or is he going to self-release? And if upcoming interview with Jessica Adams is anything to go by, we might have an answer by the end of this podcast.
Yeah.
You sound convinced.
Oh, really?
Anyway, we just wanted to talk about the reaction to Dana Gillespie's cover of Spent the Day in Bed, which came out just a few weeks ago, just after we recorded the last podcast, actually. So we did a poll in our WhatsApp channel. I asked everyone, is it a hit or is it a miss? 54% of people said it was a hit, and 46% said it was a miss.
It was quite narrow.
Yeah.
Quite narrow margin. And
what did you think of it?
I thought it was quite sweet.
Yeah.
I thought it was quite sweet.
Ouch.
But yeah, that's probably all I've really thought about it.
Sweet is slight backhanded compliment, isn't it?
I didn't mean it that way.
Okay. I thought it was great. I had never heard of Dana Gillespie before. I asked my grandma, have you heard of her? And because she does go back quite a long way, I think. But I thought on the video she had charisma. She looked really stylish.
The video was really cool. Yeah.
And she was kind of singing it in this very luxuriating, relaxed kind of way.
Yeah. And I think that's the sort of song that should be in that. It works well with the song and the lyrics and the meaning behind the song.
Yes. Okay, and next up.
So last of all, we have obviously the Moz Army coming up, All About Andy, which is next weekend on Friday and Saturday. And so
that's obviously just to give people the exact dates. That's Friday the 17th of May and Saturday the 18th of May.
Yeah. And this year, George, you obviously put a lot of work into it, and Julie, obviously loads of work into it.
No, I've done 1%. Julie, 1%? Less than 1%. Julie's done 99%.
It's funny, you talk about you've done a lot more than that. But,
no, I haven't.
And Julie obviously puts loads of work into it, and it's a really, really good night. And this year I've been given a task, probably the most important task, I think, which is the raffle.
Yeah.
So if you see me with a book of raffle tickets, then give me some money. I'm just going to look at a couple of the prizes. So we have some really cool prizes. Julie always has the best contacts to get prizes.
Yeah.
We've been donated by photographer Stephen Wright, a rare colour print of the Smiths outside the Salford Lads Club. Is that right?
Yeah.
We also have in Spiral Carpets. Is that right?
Yeah.
The signed T-shirt, which that sounds cool. And are they there?
Yeah, the original lead singer of that band is going to be performing at Moz Army. Yeah.
And then the prize I want the most is a £50 bar tab for the Straw and Garter.
Is that on the list?
Yeah,
really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's
and
great.
That would last you a little while.
That would get you quite a few beers.
They put the prices up, but very, 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 very slightly. So it's a great deal in there. So that will last you all night, for probably a couple of weeks. And then we have I think we have the famous cardboard cutout that we normally get every year, and that's normally the coveted top prize.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I mean, if you've never been, that's a life-size cardboard cutout of Morrissey, a new one every year, and someone always takes it home. In fact, one year someone nicked it, I believe.
Did they?
Yeah, but then they brought it back. They felt too guilty.
How can you bring it back? The shame.
I know.
The shameless.
They obviously couldn't sleep at night. Now, just before we move into the next section, I'll just plug the fanzine and our various channels. So If you want to subscribe to our fanzine, it's going from monthly to quarterly, just to give myself and some of the regular contributors just a bit more time. So we're going to do it, spring, summer, etc. Now, if you want to sign up for that or any of the things I'm about to mention, find us on Twitter at the Morrissey Mercury. Click the link in our bio, and it will take you to a page where you can subscribe to the fanzine, subscribe to the podcast. Join the WhatsApp channel. Now that's really good for like breaking news alerts. So as soon as I hear that the Beethoven gigs have been announced, that'll be straight out on WhatsApp before it goes on Twitter or anything else. So do join that. Everything I'm mentioning now is free. We've also got Instagram. I'm trying to post some interesting reels, like old news footage of Morrissey and that sort of thing, which is, by the way, massively helped by people actually putting that stuff on YouTube in the first place, and I always try to credit where I can. And of course Twitter for the bite-sized chunks of info. So they are all the ways you can keep up to date with Smiths and Morrissey.
The WhatsApp especially is really useful for people who don't want to look at every aspect. You can just go on there and it pops up, which is great.
Yeah, and you
be the first to know.
Yeah, exactly. And you kind of feel like you're part of a little group. I don't know. It's nice.
Cult.
A cult. Yeah. Now, how are you enjoying the prosecco, Chris?
It's nice. Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice and bubbly.
I'm getting like sort of like industrial cleaner kind of scent every now and again. But it's
Sainsbury's is posh, isn't it?
Taste the taste the finest, taste the difference,
Isn't that
touch the air.
Tesco's
know.
finest.
Taste the difference. That's it. Yeah, Jamie Oliver. Okay, well now we are going to go into Le Quiz. So let's get into that.
Exciting.
Okay, so I am the quizmaster this time. I've got 10 questions, carefully written in about 5 minutes before we started this podcast. I have checked the answers, but only cursorily on Google. So I will accept objections, and we will...
From me?
Yeah, from you. And we'll look closely at the info online if you believe I've got something wrong.
Okay.
But I don't think I do. Now, I've got this really good quiz theme music, so do you want to hear it?
Go on.
Okay. Yeah, I love quizzes. Oh, also, can you hear them saying preview? Because it's like royalty free. Preview. I love a quiz. We'll do a quiz. You're gonna win that quiz now. Quiz. Preview quiz.
Ooh.
Welcome to the Morrissey Quiz with our contestant Chris. Hi, Chris.
Hi, I'm Chris. I live in Manchester and I have 3 lovely boys.
Oh, wow. They're dogs or babies?
Spiders.
Oh, spiders. How lovely. Now, you've come all the way from Manchester to our studio in Inverness. Mm-hmm. Certain tax breaks in Inverness. And I am going to get started with the quiz. So, question 1. Which footballer is pictured in a frame in Moz's house in LA on the 2004 documentary The Importance of Being Morrissey?
Oh, that photo where he's laid on the bed barefoot.
Yeah.
I think. That's Bobby Moore?
Correct. Oh, I'm going to make a note of how well you do this time.
Yeah, do that, right.
Okay. Ding, ding, ding.
Bobby Moore. Yeah, that was a really great photograph.
Question 2. From whom... Do you like that? From whom? From whom was Morrissey accused of stealing a heap of lyrics for the song Found, Found, Found on Kill Uncle?
Oh, I know this one. Ken Dodd.
No.
I don't know this one.
Oh, you don't know?
No.
Okay. It was Noel Coward.
Oh, no coward.
So that's one wrong. Question 3. Whose head did Morrissey once demand on a plate?
So, I know this one. This is a good one. I think it's Elton John. And was it, he said something about this is the one time where meat would not be murder.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Where was that from? I don't know, but I love that.
I don't know. You've asked too many questions now, and I can't.
So you're the quizmaster, aren't you?
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
I'll get back to you. Question 4. Where do hairdressers like to get stoned, according to a variation of one of Morrissey's lyrics?
Stoned around Sloane Square.
Correct. So is that, you've got 2 right so far, 2 wrong. Okay, question 5. What was the name of the photographer with which Morrissey had a relationship in the 1990s, according to his autobiography?
Walters. John? Is it John or Jack?
It's
James.
neither.
Jack.
You're kind of close. I'm going to have to press you for a final answer.
Who's with J?
Yeah.
That's all the names with J. I've done them all now.
It's quite similar to Jack.
Jock.
No. No.
James, Jack, John.
Sorry, no, you're wrong. It was Jake Walters.
Oh, Jake.
Yeah, sorry.
I think I got half a point for that.
Okay, you can have half a point. Question 6. Which UK politician was banned from listening to the Smiths after he proclaimed his love for their music?
It wasn't Norman Lamont.
No.
Was it... Oh, no, I know who it was. It was David Cameron. Yeah,
Yes.
I remember. Was it Morrissey and Johnny Moore, I think, took away the permission for him to like the
Yeah, they
Smiths?
did. I think Johnny went first and then Morrissey, I think.
Yeah.
If I remember rightly. Okay, question number 7. Which Smith song has been played at Trump rallies invoking the wrath of Johnny Marr?
Only Johnny Moore's Wrath.
Yeah, Morrissey was strangely silent.
It was Please, 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 wasn't it?
Yeah. Do
Yeah.
you know the full name of the song, Chris?
Please, please, please let me get what I want
Correct.
this time.
Correct. Question number 8. Where is believed to be the real-life location of the iron bridge under which Morrissey says we kissed?
It was on King's Road in Stretford,
Correct.
Manchester.
Now you can have a bonus point if you can tell me what road the bridge connects King's Road to. What's the road on the other side? It's actually
Council Estate.
It's actually mentioned in another Morrissey song, much more recently.
Oh, okay. So it's going to be not Talbot Road. Stratford
Down-
Road.
No, down the wind blown.
Cornbrook Street.
No. I
Stratford.
can't give you it. It's just too... No.
What is it?
Chester Road.
Oh, Chester Road.
Yeah.
I know Chester Road.
Question number 9. Of which poet did Morrissey say her life and death were more interesting than anything she ever wrote? What you thinking? Now the question references a death, so you might think maybe she didn't just die of old age, you know.
Anne Sexton.
Oh, you're so close, because Anne Sexton is kind of linked to what he's saying here, but it's not Anne Sexton. But she's very much in the same ballpark.
So that definitely not Edith Sitwell then.
No.
I don't know.
Edith Sitwell, who I saw someone say on Instagram the other day that she invented rap. Did you see that? Like, what level of reality am I supposed to be operating on?
Do you know where she's from? She's from not Whitby, Scarborough.
Really?
Yeah. No, I don't imagine she invented rap.
So you don't know that one then?
Have a clue.
Oh, yeah, okay. She wrote a book called The Bell Jar.
I'm not going to get it.
Okay, Sylvia Plath.
Oh, of course, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, that yeah.
Quite enjoying doing a cross on my notepad when you get one
I
wrong.
know, it's not nice.
Sadistic. Okay, question number 10, your final question. Now you've got 4 right and 4 wrong.
Okay.
You do have half a point, so that's 4.5, but let's see how you do with question 10.
Okay.
What was the name of the band that Morrissey's best friend Linda Sterling played with?
It's Ludus or
Ludus.
Ludus.
Is correct.
I remember that one. She's got that good book, Shot. Morrissey Shot.
You've got 6.5 out of 10. Do you want to just wave at the camera and say goodbye to everyone at home?
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
you. Bye. Thank you. Come back to us next month, for another edition of the Morrissey Quiz. Goodbye.
Bye, bye, bye.
Bye. Bye. Preview. Bye.
What do I win?
Fuck off. You didn't win the quiz. You are shit, but you try hard. Goodbye, everyone. Bye bye. That was nice, wasn't it?
Yeah, you did a good job finding that.
Thank you. Okay, now what have we got coming up next? Do you know, Chris? Because I don't. Let's have a look.
I think
Oh, I know what we're going to do. We're just going to have a little break and then we're going to come back with a call out. We want to hear your stories. So bear with us and we'll see you in a sec.
we really want to hear from you now. So we want you to write in, tell us a time where Morrissey has helped you get through a bad patch.
Yeah, we want to hear, like for me, probably some school times. There are times when all that will help is listening to the Smiths and Morrissey. And we want to know, what were those times for you? What songs, what lyrics really got you through? If you'd be so kind, you can email in with just your first name or whatever. You don't have to give away your whole identity and where you live and your job or whatever. But it would be really nice to talk about those things and reflect on it. And we'll come back next time with some of our own stories.
Yeah.
Now, the email address is themorrisseymercury@gmail.com. Now, you can always send us a DM on Twitter, Instagram, or whatever. But the email is probably the best way. And tell us, if you just want us to use your first name or a fake name or whatever, have fun with a fake name. That's absolutely fine. We'll come back to that next month.
You're looking forward to that.
Yeah, now, what have we got next?
Next we have Nanny Val Reacts. She's back again.
Yeah.
The infamous Nanny Val. And it's I Have Forgiven Jesus.
Yes. Back at it again with the white nan. Yes, I have forgiven Jesus. So we're going to talk to her about that song. She's never heard it before this week. I sent it to her a couple of days ago so she had time to think about it. She's just been to have her hair done at Modern Miss in Allington,
Nice.
her favourite shop. So we'll talk to her about that as well. Why not? Let's go into that now.
Good kid, through hail and snow I'd go just to moon you.
So, Nan, thank you for joining us. How was your haircut?
Oh, fine, thank you.
It's
I
just
never enjoy the hairdressers. I'm not like some people. It's not my thing.
well, and also in the summer it gets really hot, right, with the hair dryers and everything.
Well, it's only like a blow dry.
Yeah.
I know I'm old, but I'm not still in, you know, the
Well,
old-fashioned curlers, etc.
no, I
And
didn't
under,
mean that.
under the big dryers.
Yeah, no, I just meant when I go to the hairdressers, they've got like all the hair dryers blowing, and then you've got like a gown over you, so you're getting really hot, and they never open the door or the windows. Um, But anyway, so this week we've given you I Have Forgiven Jesus, which is from the 2004 album You Are the Quarry. I believe I remember reading that someone on Morrissey's team said it'd be really funny if we released this for the Christmas charts. I don't know if it got into the top 10. I doubt it did, but I'll have to check on that. But anyway, my first question for you, Nan, would be, what did you make of this? I mean, frankly, I'm not sure it gets much more arrogant, does it, than saying to Jesus, I have forgiven you? I mean, how did that strike you, that sentiment?
Um, I don't know what his real views are because you never really know whether he's agnostic, atheist, whatever he is. But I think it's typical Morrissey. It's controversial. That's the main thing. But I also feel and obviously I don't know this, but I would imagine this was written at the time when he was in a time when he was challenging his beliefs again and challenging God, Jesus, because of something that happened in his recent past. And I think it made him reflect on a different time when he was young. That's only obviously how I see it. I'm not sure, obviously, if any of this is based on fact, but it's how I feel the song is. I think that he's feeling a current pain, and it's reminding him of another time when he was young, when he felt deserted.
I
by
see.
Jesus and by, his beliefs, by the what he was born into, his Catholic faith. Because there's sort of two tempos to it. There's a time when I think he's singing like as he would have done at that time. He uses lots of like vernacular, that brung to you and
Yeah.
things like this, and near to you, as if he were talking at that time to someone. I don't know when he lost his grandma. Was that when he was very young? I should remember because I briefly listened to his biography. But I think losing someone very close to him would have made him challenge his beliefs then, because it looks as if people said to him, like, or the priest or someone said to him, because he said, with God's help, I know I'll always be near to you.
Mm.
But then he felt deserted because he didn't feel near. He didn't feel that what they'd promised him came to fruition. I think, I don't know. And I
Yeah.
think he was reliving this in 2004, whatever, in this recent times, when he felt this same sort of desertion. He didn't have any faith anymore. I believe, I don't know.
Yeah, that's yes, I understand what you're saying. I understand more now what you're saying. So both instances would have been some kind of loss, some kind of desertion, but in different forms.
Exactly. So, yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. And even, I mean, again, I probably completely got the wrong end of the stick here, but there's a part when he says, I was a good kid. Through hail and snow, I just go to moon you.
Mm.
That sounds as if he's gone into some sacred place and mooned a statue of Jesus, or been very sacrilegious in his little, childhood mind, being very audacious, very brave. Again,
Well,
I'm completely off track, I expect.
no, that is, I think, what everybody thinks when they hear that line. I mean, I can't get rid of that image when I listen to it, but I'm not going to look it up now because I'll be distracted. But I'm sure that I once found that there's a kind of archaic definition of mooning, which means like praising, worshipping someone. So I think now it wouldn't have escaped Morrissey that it has a double meaning, you know.
Of
Um,
course.
but I think there is like an old definition which means kind of like he's sort of saying, I'd walk through snow just to worship, at the church.
Yeah, it's a possibility, but it's not how I. I think there's a lot of tongue in cheek with everything he does. I watched two sort of renditions of it. One when he was walking along the street dressed as a priest,
Yeah.
and then one when there's a stage show when there's a huge gong behind him, a huge brass gong behind him. And in that one, he's actually, when he does all the bit about Monday humiliation, Tuesday suffocation, Wednesday condescension, Thursday is pathetic, by Friday life has killed me. He alters the words completely on the one on the stage.
Hmm.
And he says Monday humiliation, Tuesday condescension, Wednesday condescension, Thursday is pathetic, and by Friday more condescension, and he laughs. So
Hmm.
I think a lot of everything he does, he don't want you to take him too seriously.
Yeah.
I think he's always got that element of, laugh with me. I'm laughing. Don't take everything too seriously.
Well,
But
yeah, yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, there is a song, which I think he's talking about. Well, sorry, there's a train going past. It's the song where I think he's talking about football hooligans. But anyway, there's a line when he says, "The songs we sing, they're not supposed to mean a thing." Um, so yeah, they're obviously his songs are imbued with a lot of meaning, but at the same time, there's a lot of jokes in there, and there's a lot of stuff that you aren't supposed to take quite so literally, I guess.
I
Um,
think so.
Now, what did you think about uh the idea of him being having all this love that he feels that he can't put into anything, that he can't do anything with, and what kind of love do you think he's talking about?
I think he has always suffered because of his, I don't know, probably suppressed sexuality and so forth. I think he is a very loving person, but he's only occasionally found the people, that he could really relate to, and then often he's lost them because he is an oddball. He is a person that finds it very difficult in relationships.
Mm,
Again, that's only superficially I'm saying that. I don't know. Well, I don't suppose anyone really knows about his true life. It's only what we, gleaned from odd
It-
releases here and there or interviews.
yeah, yeah. And he ends this song with "Do you hate me? Do you hate me?" Um, it's a very strong, sort of very strong emotion and a quite a unique sort of. I mean, of course, that there's a long history of literature where people wonder if God has hated them. I mean, it goes back to the Bible, doesn't it? But what did you think of that? The ending to the song there. How did that make you feel when he sang those lines?
I think he did feel like that on occasions that life was really against him, and if there was a God, why weren't they protecting him, and why weren't they looking after him more and not letting him suffer? I think that's common in many people.
Mm. And do you think like things change, don't they? If this song was released in the 1950s, maybe, I feel like it would be quite outrageous, to say I've forgiven Jesus. It's by saying that you're putting yourself above Jesus for a moment and saying, now I forgive you. Now, 2004 is a long time later, and many people wouldn't have even raised an eyebrow. But I wanted to get your take on that. Did you think, is there any element of this song that you find controversial or eye-poking or whatever?
George, I was born in 1942, and I can remember a time when I was quite a young child.
Mm,
And events had happened to me, only minor in comparison to many people's lives, but I felt really deserted. And I used to lie on my bed as a little kid, about 9, 10, and challenge and say, I don't believe in you, Jesus. Do your worst. So I don't think, if I was a poet or a songwriter, I probably would have put that into words at some point. I don't know.
mm,
Maybe. I know what you mean. Obviously, it was far less easy to say anything like this in public at that time. But it didn't mean to say that people didn't have those thoughts or voice those thoughts sometimes.
of course. Well, you are pretty open-minded, Dan. You always have been. I think you're an outlier of your generation, but yeah, no, I know what you mean. I just think Morrissey is always trying to be controversial, isn't he? And it wouldn't have escaped him that this was a controversial sentiment. But it's almost a shame that it came out in 2004 because if it was just a bit earlier, it might have got a bit more, got people a bit more riled up. I don't know. And I'll have to check on whether it did make the Christmas charts because that would have been quite funny. Um, now,
I did,
sorry,
sorry.
go
No,
ahead.
I was going to say I did read also about how when his mother was dying, who he loved very much, he asked everyone, all of his fans, to pray for her, didn't he?
Mm,
And he said, pray in the hope just in case that there is something or someone out there listening. So, and he said about your pleas of petition might wake the sleeping gods. So
mm,
that didn't tell me that he has faith. It tells me someone desperate. He says gods. He didn't say Jesus or God. He says gods. So I think he's clutching at straws. He wants everybody to pray to see if they can change the situation with his mum. But
yeah.
I don't think he says he's forgiven Jesus. In my mind, he hasn't.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. So, obviously, he's always had this Catholic upbringing, and there's a lot of sort of Catholic imagery in some of his songs. But you're right. In later songs, he refers to plural gods, and your God and my God, and that sort of thing. So, yeah, I suppose his spirituality has kind of evolved from that Catholic upbringing. Um, I wanted to ask you before we finish now, have you gone on to listen to any other Morrissey songs that I haven't recommended to you? Have you found any others or watched any interviews that you wanted to mention?
I've been rather preoccupied of late with things happening in my own life, changing homes and doing things. So I've not had a great opportunity to do that. But I must say, I'm more interested now than when we started this project. So I shall endeavour to go on and listen to others.
Maybe we'll
Definitely.
maybe we'll
Yeah,
get you to the next Morrissey gig.
I think so. I think we might do that.
Brilliant. Okay, well I've got that recorded now, Nan, so you have to do it.
Okay, my love.
All right, well, we'll leave it there. Thanks a lot, Nan.
Okay, honey. Bye.
Bye.
Oh, I always love hearing from your nan, George.
Yeah, I know. She's quite fond of you too. And, you know, she always has something interesting to say. I just love. She's always saying to me, George, I don't think it's very interesting, you know, for people. I don't know anything about Morrissey. I say, like, that's the whole point. There's all these videos online, you know, so and so hears How Soon Is Now for the first time, they react. That's the whole point of it.
An outsider. Yeah, no, but I suppose as it goes on, she'll start to learn more.
Yeah.
And put more of the jigsaw pieces together, because she won't have just heard it's not her first Morrissey song anymore.
No, she was telling me stuff the other day that I completely forgotten from autobiography. It was a bit weird. My own nan was sort of teaching me about Morrissey. But anyway, next we've got If You Love Morrissey, Then You'll Love This. So we're just going to give you a couple of recommendations of the sort of things that we think, if you love Morrissey as much as we do, you're probably going to like this stuff too. So let's get into that.
So, if you love Morrissey, you'll love this. George, what's yours?
Okay, so this is an absolute gem that I discovered, I think it was about a year ago, on BBC iPlayer. So if you're in the UK and you pay the license fee, or maybe even if you don't, you can watch stuff on iPlayer. But this thing I'm about to mention is also available on YouTube, and you'll find it. It's called 3 Salons at the Seaside. It's a 1994 documentary which documents the lives of largely an elderly community, and how they gossip and get together through the hairdressers in their area, the hair salons. It's like, it's got that, you know, that sort of look that 90s television had. It's slightly misty, you know, and it's like this kind of slice of forgotten England. Like, this England doesn't exist anymore. And, you know, there's this fabulous bit when one of the hairdressers says, "Oh, I keep this ledger, and it's got all these names in it." And the documentary makers wants to know, well, what's in the book? And it says, every time a customer tells me that someone has died, I write their name in this book and the date when they died, because the thing is, there's a lot of discrepancies, and people come in and they say different things, and I say, no, I've written it down in the book. She died on Wednesday the 4th of July.
Is it in the book, dear?
Yeah. It's just beautiful, and I understand from just doing a little bit of reading about it that it came out in 1994, perhaps not to great acclaim, but since it has amassed a big kind of following. So the BBC have put it back on iPlayer for everyone to watch.
Yeah, because you told me about this probably about a year ago, like you said, and I watched it, and it was very like forgotten England, and reminded me of growing up. My mum had a hair salon, and reminds me of sitting there and listening to the conversations of all the old ladies that come in. Yeah, it's great.
And you would have like my mum had a cafe, your mum had a salon. It's a similar kind of thing. You know, there would be characters who would come in that we would give them names, like Mrs. Cappuccino, Mrs. £2. Mrs. £2 would always give me and my brother a £2 coin. Mrs. Cappuccino always had a cappuccino. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
These characters. Now that does still exist. You will still find that in villages and towns across the UK. But this particular thing that you see in 3 Salons at the Seaside, that's not coming back, I don't think. And I'm so glad that this documentary exists. And the point is, if you love Morrissey and that every day is like Sunday vibe.
That video, it's very much that. Yeah, it's
very much that. Very that. So, totally recommend that. Chris, do you have one for us?
So this one, it's a book called Acid Drops, and it's by Kenneth Williams. And Kenneth Williams, obviously, a big link to Morrissey, I suppose, through the Carry On film links, but also in most of Morrissey's recent shows, there's the backdrop, which is Kenneth Williams saying, "This man Morrissey is a revelation," and the book itself has lists of words, so it's quite a lot of plurality as well in there. So and explains what those words mean, and some of the words are words that, you know, there's a second meaning behind them, and that's maybe a bit shady or something like that. And it's a really funny book, so I'd recommend that.
Is it kind of like lists of quotes and comebacks, or is it like a book? Is it like prose?
It's both, really. There is I always think the best bit is the list of words at the start, where you can go through them, and it's sort of what this word means in Kenneth Williams's language, and most of them are quite biting, and sort of quite cynical and cruel, which you would expect. So yeah, that's definitely. I won't ruin it by giving any of the words away, but I think it's definitely worth a read, and a few innuendos as well, which is quite Kenneth Williams, So yeah, I'd recommend that.
He has that quote, I hate innuendos in scripts. If I see one, I whip it out immediately.
Yes, that's a great one. Yeah, there's a funny one there. That's a great book by Kenny Phillips. Maybe a little bit more cheery than his personal diaries, which sort of end in, I wonder if anyone will ever know the emptiness of my life, or what's the point?
That was on your fridge for a while, wasn't it? That quote, oh, what's the bloody point?
Yes, yeah, what's the bloody point? Yeah.
Cheery. It's always cheery around Chris's house. Always got the kettle on, suicidal quotes on the fridge. So yours is Acid Drops by Kenneth Williams.
Yes.
Mine is Three Salons at the Seaside, which is on BBC iPlayer in the UK. I think I've just seen a link on YouTube, so you should be able to find it there.
Great.
As well. Next, we are going to dissect the meanings of the lyrics of 3 Morrissey songs. An old one, a new one.
Something blue.
Something borrowed. Something new. So let's get into that now.
The first track we're going to listen to is Tony the Pony, recommended by my friend Harry. It's the B-side to the 1991 single Our Frank, but it was on the US version of Kill Uncle.
Okay, let's listen to that now.
But you carry the can for anyone. There's a free ride on your blue towing. You're drunker, quicker, and you're sicker even quicker. Well, something heavy is gonna fall on you.
So George, Tony the Pony.
Tony the Pony, yeah. So I will be honest, this is not one of my favourite Morrissey tracks. Is it one of your favourites, or?
I think this song's great because some of the words, some of the lyrics on their own are really interesting. But also it's one of the Morrissey songs that's full of Morrissey sounds. So there's lots of sounds that he makes that aren't, in the music.
Yeah.
That are really interesting to listen to and great, really beautiful. So yeah, but I think Morrissey did describe this as his worst song ever.
Really?
Somewhere. I've seen that, some people write that down. Apparently there's a video where he says that, but I've not seen it. But I definitely don't agree with him.
No, I don't know. It's hard. I could think of a couple that I might put forward for that title before this one. I think also this is from the 90s era. I love the 90s era of Morrissey, especially the early 90s when the quiff was amazing and the inspiration didn't seem to ever stop coming. I mean, this, to me, you've got an older brother and a younger brother, I think. The older brother's looking out for the younger one. The younger one is wasting his life drinking on the streets, getting into trouble. And the older brother is saying something heavy's going to fall on you, as if to say you might die of drinking too much, or you might get into a fight and get one punch killed, or, something bad's going to happen. And then this bad thing does happen, and the older brother is saying, I'm not going to say I told you so, but I told you so. But there's also this idea that maybe the older brother is jealous of the younger brother.
And that I had my time and I spent it crying.
Yeah.
You had your time, you spent it crying.
Yeah.
Interesting.
But it's very, very ambiguous who's talking to who.
Yeah.
So you do wonder, is that bit about you had your time and you spent it crying? Is he saying that to the drinking brother, the younger brother? You've wasted your life crying and drinking when you could have been doing more. But it does always come back to I told you so, doesn't it? That's the refrain. And that's often the way with Morrissey is the observer. He's always the cleverest person in the room. I think that's how Morrissey likes to write his stories. So Morrissey always knows best. And I suppose there's nothing Morrissey likes better than proving that he knew best, because this bad thing did happen.
And then I part of the song makes you think of maybe, I don't know, the prostitution maybe with the...
Again, we can't keep talking about prostitution.
This song, I know, and there's so standing on the corner and there's a free ride on Tony the Pony. Those sort of.
Yeah, well, quite possibly. We do know that prostitution is one of Morrissey's sort of common touch points in his songs. That is true. Maybe not majorly, but in a minor way. Free ride on Tony the Pony. I think that's more just like he's a street drinker. He's getting into trouble. People know that if they chum up with him, he'll buy them a few cans of cider or whatever. I feel like that's what he's getting at.
And there's one line that's quite not so clear, which I think goes, what's that?
Is this the blue dress, green dress?
Yeah, it is exactly that. Yeah, so there's a free ride on Fucked Up Tony or Soft Touch Tony.
Yeah.
And if you listen to it and you say in your head one of them, that'll be the one you hear.
Yeah. Because I said, oh no, I think it's Soft Touch because that's the whole point.
But all
of
the
song.
lyrics, when you look at the lyric lists
Yeah.
online, say Fucked Up Tony.
Say Fucked Up Tony.
But there is a bit of debate I've seen online. So.
Well, I know that Morrissey doesn't really like it when he swears in his songs, and I'm sure I've read him saying, kind of regret ever swearing in songs. So maybe that's why he hates this song so much, because he did say Fucked Up Tony.
He had a potty mouth.
Yeah. But it's like, I remember reading in Mozipedia about, in Last of the Famous International Playboys, there's a bit when Morrissey's voice goes like warbly. I'm struggling to remember the exact line now, but it's basically a signature Morrissey sound. And when he says the Fucked Up Tony, it's like he does that weird thing with his voice.
Yeah.
When you said this is full of Morrissey sounds, I totally know what you mean.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'd love to hear your thoughts. Send us a tweet or email of what you think this song is about, because it's very possible we've missed something. What are we listening to next?
So next we have from World Peace, we have I Am Not a Man. It's the third track of the album from 2014. I Am Not a Man.
Okay, let's have a listen.
Wolf down, T-bone steak. Wolf down, cancer of the prostate. Ways to sit, and of course, ways to stand. I'm not a man, I'm not a man, no.
I'm Not a Man. So I think this song's probably got an obvious start out, which is sort of rejecting the notion of being a man. George?
Yeah. It is rejecting the notion of being a man. I think he's saying, just because I'm male, just because I have this stuff going on downstairs, doesn't mean, as far as we know, doesn't mean that he's a man. Because a man, to Morrissey, is all the things that he lists in this song. This kind of macho, angry, violent, feasting on, as he would put it, flesh. Yeah. It's actually a really... It's an idea that's been going around for a long time in especially feminist texts and philosophical texts around gender, that it's kind of old hat now, but your gender is different to your sex. That's what some people believe, and that's kind of what he's saying here, is that I think Morrissey has said in some interviews that he occupies a third gender, or he's outside of the man and woman thing. So his views will have evolved, but all we know in this song is he's saying, I can tell you one thing, I'm not a man, if that's what a man is.
I don't want to be part of that.
No,
Yeah.
and he is in fact, he says, bigger and better than a man.
One of my favourite lines is I'm shaking, look at me, I'm quaking. I think it's very much a tongue-in-cheek, like, oh, I'm so scared, obviously not. Yeah, so that was, I think that's a really nice line. And then the thing that I always stand out for me is words that I don't always, or things that I don't understand straight away. So one of the lines, you are the slow Joe who signed up to go.
Yeah.
Don't really know, I didn't know what slow Joe meant.
I think he says Soul Joe.
That's not slow Joe.
I think it's, you are the Soul Joe who signed up to go,
okay,
as in,
okay.
A Joe, I think, is like a soldier.
Okay.
You're the only one who is stupid enough to sign up to go to war. I mean,
makes sense, yeah.
We'll in fact, let's take a do break, we'll check the lyrics and we'll come back.
Because I did look at what slow Joe might mean.
Yeah.
It sounds maybe like some sort of stew. But I think actually, from what I understand, it's a character from a Dr. Seuss book.
Okay,
But I
well,
don't know.
let's check. So it is Slow Joe, SLOW. Don't think it's a Dr. Seuss reference, but okay, we don't know. But let's not focus on the bits we
If
don't
anyone
know.
knows about slow Joe,
Yeah, get in touch. There's also a lot of Moz sounds, like you mentioned that in the previous
my
song.
favourite.
Yeah, there's a lot of kind of vocalizing, and there's a bit when it's sort of crescendos, is that the right word? Near the end, these sort of vocalizing sounds. So that's nice. And I also love when he says there are ways to sit and, of course, ways to stand. That always gives me flashbacks to, like, I used to get teased, but I'm doing it right now, sitting down with one leg crossed over the other, like at school or whatever. That was considered very feminine. So when I hear this, ways to sit and ways to stand, you think, yeah, there are. And isn't that just the most ridiculous thing in the world? If you want to be a man, you've got to stand or sit in a certain way.
Yeah. Feet have to be in a certain position, not crossed. Absolutely.
So anything else you wanted to add on that song?
No, I think we can move on to The Hills Are Alive with Celibate Cries. These things take time.
These things take time. What year is this from?
This was from 1984. It was the B-side to What Difference Does It Make? And it was the B-side along with Back to the Old House.
3 cracking songs. Okay, let's listen to These Things Take Time.
Mine eyes have seen the glory of the sacred wonder kind. You took me behind a disused railway line and said, I know a place where we can go, where we are not known. And then you gave me something that I won't forget too soon. But I can't believe that you'd ever cared, and this is why you will never care.
So this song, like I think a few Smith songs, follow a pattern where in the first lyrics where it goes, mine eyes have seen the glory of the sacred wonder kind, and then you took me behind a disused railway line. I really think Morrissey likes to contrast two extreme things, because the first thing's the glory of the sacred wonder kind sounds something sort of out there, and then something very like average and day-to-day and down to earth. And there's a couple of times where Morrissey does this. One is when he says, as Anthony says to Cleopatra as he opens the crate of ale, it's like a really historic thing, but they're doing something very normal. And then there's also in another Smith song, love and law and poverty, these are the things that kill me, and then the rain that flattens my hair, these are the things that kill me. So I quite like those big contrasts.
Yeah, that's a very good
He
point.
does a lot of those, and I really enjoy those.
Yeah, I love that. Never thought about that before. I mean, I know that Morrissey loves the ordinary,
Yeah.
and the magic of the ordinary, but I never thought that technique before. I mean, that's a very good point. I wanted to talk about, do we think that the object of his affections is a man or a woman? Because he does say a woman divides, but then there's some innuendo kind of imagery in the opening few parts, lines, when he says, you took me behind a disused railway line. I think that can be read two ways. And you gave me something that I won't forget too soon. To me, that he's playing with gay imagery there. But then he also goes on to talk about a woman divides and how he's spellbound, presumably with this woman. I don't think Morrissey would just put in a few references to a woman to hide the fact that he was being a bit gay. Because as we know, the Smiths started out thinking they might be a gay band. Unless Johnny Marr said, or do you think you could just tone down the gay a bit?
You love bringing the gay up, George. A woman divides. I've never understood that line.
I'm annoyed that you brought that up, because I don't have an answer to that either. I mean, a woman divides. Is he saying, a woman has to fulfill several different roles in life? There's the homemaker, there's the career woman, there's the wife, the girlfriend, the daughter, and before you know it, the woman is so divided that there's nothing left. I don't know. That's one possible interpretation, but I'm not sure. And if you at home do have an idea, email us, because we'd love to hear it.
And then I think there's a bit in the song around the belonging. So where it's sort of you know where you came from, you know where you're going, you know where you belong. It's very much of the vibes of the Ordinary Boys. That sort of very good for you. You know that. I don't necessarily.
And I think most people in the world do know where they're going. They know where they belong, and you'll find that a lot of people who like the Smiths and Morrissey, and also bands like Pulp and The Cure, various others, Rufus Wainwright maybe, I'm sure there are loads, those people don't really know where they're going or where they belong. And that's why finding this music is such a joy, because you find other people who are similarly confused. I love the line, the most inept that ever stepped.
Yeah.
I think that is Morrissey saying, guess what, I can do really cool rhymes, and it will just be a
It's
throwaway
really,
line.
really a great line, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's so music, so sort of rolls off the tongue.
And of course, the alcoholic afternoons when we sat in your rooms is wonderful. And you know, I guess he would have been in his mid to late 20s when he wrote this song. He probably didn't have a lot of money. His only option to booze would be to go round to a friend's house or a romantic partner's house, you know, and drink in the bedroom, you know, with a bottle of stolen wine or whatever. And it's just a beautiful image. But ultimately, I think this song is about the character, whether it's Morrissey autobiographically or whether it's a character. The main character has found a love interest. They've had some exciting times around the back of a railway line, and the character is worried that this object of their affection is so beautiful and vivid and young that they will just disappear before Morrissey knows it, and it will never see them again.
Vivid in your prime.
Yeah. So that wraps up our lyric dissection, unless you had anything more to add, Christopher?
No, that was great. Yeah.
Okay.
One of my favourite songs, one of your favourite Smith songs.
Yeah,
I think.
yeah.
So, yeah.
And what are we doing next?
So next we're going to go on to the Jessica Adams interview. Next.
Yeah, okay. So Jessica Adams is a best-selling author and astrologer. Her work can be found in major books, newspapers and magazines across the world, from Daily Mail to Elle to Vogue to Harper's Bazaar, all of that sort of stuff. She also fronts the chart-topping Astrology Show podcast, and she kindly provides the spookily accurate mososcopes that appear in the Morrissey Mercury fanzine. So if you're into astrology and tarot, like I very much am, then you're going to love this. If you are slightly more skeptical, like Chris here, I totally understand that as well. You might find something to enjoy in it. But look, we're not taking things too seriously. I'm a believer. Chris isn't. Jessica obviously is, and she's very good at what she does. So let's see what she has to say about Morrissey's future. A future and a tour that Dickie Felton of this parish described as on the brink. So things very much are in the air for Morrissey. Let's see what's in his future. So, Jessica Adams, thank you for doing this for the podcast. How are you doing?
Very well. It's Saturday night in Australia.
How is the weather?
Oh, it's freezing. We're
Is it
so
really?
near Antarctica where I am in Tasmania.
What temperatures are we talking? Because I wonder if my idea of freezing might be slightly different to yours.
Yes, I think it may be.
Okay, so we first started talking to each other through the Morrissey Mercury fanzine, didn't we? And you very kindly have been doing the Morrissey themed horoscopes, which we call the mososcopes,
Yeah.
which are frequently spookily accurate. And I usually tell you when when they are, and Chris, who does the podcast with me, always says the same. And some people have said to us that their favorite bit of the fanzine is the mososcope. So thank you again for doing them.
Oh, that's lovely.
Now, I believe you have had a look at Morrissey's horoscopes and hoping that you might be able to give us some hint about when these albums are going to come out, maybe when there might be some big milestones coming up in his life, or what have you found?
Well, although Morrissey is a Gemini, he's a Sun Gemini, he's very heavily Scorpio. In fact, Johnny Marr is also a Sun Scorpio, but Morrissey's very heavily Scorpio chart has actually held him up financially since 2018 and until 2026. But on the plus side, when he does come out with his new album or his new project, it's likely to be quite multimedia and quite diverse. So it may not just be an album, it may also be a book or an interactive video. It's all sorts. He's very open to that. But at the moment, yes, financially, he's pushing through.
Is there something multimedia? That as soon as you said that, I thought, does that mean could that be a self-release on something like Bandcamp? You know, when there's a lot of different aspects involved.
Yes, it looks as if it's going to be much more experimental than we previously expected. And he will be encouraged to try new things. That just reminds me of a lyric, but it's just gone now. But he'll be encouraged to Morrissey may actually be, hologram beamed into your sitting room eventually. And that's sort of until 2030 and beyond, really. So a lot of people have been looking at the Beatles and their work on the John Lennon project. And, I think Morrissey's had a sideways glance.
Well, we know Morrissey likes to cancel at the last minute. Sometimes there's a suspicion maybe he can't be bothered to jet halfway across the world to get to a gig every now and again. So the ABBA Voyage thing, and Kiss wants to do the hologram concerts, don't they? So I see what you're saying. Morrissey might be quite tempted by that idea.
Yes, it's also on the psychic level, I can see him playing with different versions of himself, right from his adolescence through to his 30s and 40s. So we may be seeing some sort of video project where he's actually changing shape shifting back to his many past Gemini's twin selves.
And this aspect of the being held up financially that you mentioned before,
Yeah.
is that would that mean that he might be struggling a bit for money, or he's not making as much money as he used to make, or what would that indicate?
Not struggling for money, but definitely being challenged on all fronts. Because he's so strongly Scorpio, what's happening is he's having an opposition from Uranus to everything he has in Scorpio. And Scorpio is very fixed, it's very stubborn. So it looks as if he's not backing down on principle. He's got his ethics and his values and his principles, and people keep making him offers and he keeps telling them to go away. He's got a lot of stuff in the vault. This is a psychic session as well as an astrology session, so I'm being shown a safe. So what's under lock and key with Morrissey, very, very valuable.
So could that mean demos, tapes, your songs that we've never heard, whole albums?
Yes, there's a wealth of demo and also alternative versions that he's tried over the years, and also just letters and memorabilia, photographs, and the odd Super 8 video, which we probably shouldn't see.
Now you've got me thinking. So there's being financially held back. There's looking at different ways of presenting himself to the world, and there's this vault. I'm thinking like an official Morrissey movie. Do you think that's something that could possibly be on the cards?
Yeah, it will happen when the technology has arrived to make it more than just the usual film. Because Morrissey's also so interested in black and white photography, it's his fave, historically. I wouldn't be at all surprised if there's maybe not a full feature-length film, but maybe a half feature-length film, and it may be shot in black and white.
Okay. Before we move on to the tarot, was there anything else you wanted to mention with regards to the horoscopes?
Yeah, so this is the chart of somebody who is basically an old soul. He's come back here to explore everything that he never did last time with the Irish, with Ireland, with being working class, with coming from the north, and particularly his relationship with women. So Morrissey, he was a woman in his past life, and now he's back here. He's discovering what it's like in the 22nd century nearly to become incarnated as a man while feeling like a woman and understanding women and having sympathy for their viewpoints. So that's one of the things that he's doing at the moment.
Is that you've tempted me to go into a sidebar here, but so he stuck up for Germaine Greer recently at a gig.
Oh, okay. Yes.
And I think that there are increasingly women on a certain side of that trans argument are saying, you know what, I'm actually proud to be called a TERF, and people will have opinions either way about that. But Morrissey seems to be sticking up for a certain viewpoint, a certain woman's viewpoint when he sticks up for Germaine Greer, I think. Don't know what you think of that.
Oh, well, that would make perfect sense given his past life. He's been a woman so often that he understands what it's like to be a woman in 2024, to be replaced by men who say that they're women, the male definition of what femininity is. So we've got, Fraudry Hepburn, Dylan, basically trying to replace Audrey in our hearts and minds, trying. And you've got the other point of view, of course, but from the feminist point of view, people like J.K. Rowling, who's a huge fan of the Smiths, obviously siding with Germaine Greer. So I'm not surprised really that he's come out on the feminist side, but it does have a lot to do with his last life as a woman.
Fascinating. Shall we go on to tarot?
So I've got my deck here. This is the Smith-Waite Tarot deck. It was originally published in 1909. What would you like to pass on?
I would like to know how likely it is that in the next year or so we will see an album re-released from Morrissey.
Okay, let's have a look at that. So we're now Saturday, the 11th of May, 2024. So by 11th of May, 2025, I'm just asking the cards overall. Well, that's too funny. You've got the Hanged Man there. So I'll just show you on the Zoom. The listeners should know that this is a man dangling upside down in a pair of rather nice red tights. And while he is dangling and waiting, he becomes enlightened. So the answer is nothing. But during the dangling phase, we have Morrissey becoming spiritually enlightened, actually. He's also very torn between two sides of his family tree here. That's a more personal thing, which we're not being told about. But no, he's all tied up in knots here. So that's quite specific, that card. What else would you like to know? Or the fans like to know?
What else would fans like to know? Are we going to be seeing a lot of Morrissey in the next year or so in terms of gigs, or is he going to be, staying away from performing live?
Yeah, okay. So for everybody that wants to go and see Morrissey live, let's have a look. Where are we at with that? Well, what we have here is the Nine of Cups, and you can see Morrissey with an orchestra. So if he does go on the road, it will be with an orchestra. If he doesn't, he'll be working in a live performance setting. So you might have a live stream. But this is quite a good card. It shows somebody who's even a little bit smug about the backing that he's getting, the support that he's getting from this really rather interesting group of people. It looks as if it's going to be a arrangement of composition, which he thinks is satisfactory. It's enough for him. It's good enough for everybody else. What we're going to see is more of an old-fashioned theatrical setting. So I'm seeing velvet curtains, proper staging, very kind of almost sort of 20th century staging, and somebody that's really very happy with having escaped from the 3 or 4 piece into what looks like a 9 or 10 piece.
So a kind of elevation of a change and evolving from what he used to do.
Yes, I mean, it's for anybody that's ever seen an orchestra playing with a band. I saw Page and Plant play with an orchestra, and it was stupendous. So that approach to his work is very interesting, and I see him looking very happy with that, much more so than he has been, say, in the past with smaller lineups.
Okay, do I have one more question?
Of course.
I'll ask one question that I'm intrigued about, maybe on a personal level. In Morrissey's love life, is he happy, or does he continue to? Is Morrissey continuing to search for someone in his love life, or is he happy with whoever he's with now?
Yes, let's have a look. Bearing in mind it is May 2024, and these things take time. I knew I'd get a quote in somewhere. Let's have a look. Oh, look, he's overjoyed. I've got the Sun Tarot card. What's interesting about this is it's about a younger generation. So at the moment, whether this is nieces and nephews or whether it's his partner's children or his partner's nieces and nephews, one of the great things about love and life at the moment is that although he's not a father, there is somebody here who's like a son to him. That's what the Sun card is saying.
Fabulous. Isn't it funny how you can apply horoscopes and tarot to all sorts of different things, and you can find certain answers?
Oh yes, it will always tell you the truth. And in fact, the cards will tell you what the horoscope is telling you. So you have sort of double validation, if you like. So the Gemini chart at the moment is all about karma with children and a younger generation, from school children through to millennials, really. There's sort of karma there. So Morrissey, even though he skipped that part of his life as a father, he's owed, and therefore he's been given the younger generation to lead and to enjoy.
Thank you so much for doing this, Jessica.
Pleasure.
Now, if people want to read more of your horoscopes, you have a website and you have a podcast and you have several books. Where can people find more information?
JessicaAdams.com is the best place. And from there, you can get the link to the podcast, which is it's actually out today, every Saturday or Sunday.
I listened to it this morning. Okay.
I'll have to do your reading, George, eventually. We'll do a reading for you one day.
Oh, that would be fabulous.
Not for broadcast, yeah.
No. Thank you so much, Jessica, and I'll speak to you soon.
Okay, bye for now.
Bye.
There's an open door. Do I go through it? Yes, here we go. Bye.
Bye.
What a lovely voice. Jessica seems lovely.
Yeah.
I'm cynical, but I was really interesting to hear about that. What are your thoughts, George?
Well, I love it. I've had my tarot readings done and mediums and all that stuff. I love it all. So, and I've spoken to Jessica many times via email. She's been so kind doing the mososcopes for the fanzine. But that was the first time we talked, and I'd heard her voice and saw her face on the Zoom call. And it was really nice. And I thought that was really interesting. She was talking about the possibility of like experimental new ways of us seeing Morrissey. We consider him to be a legacy artist. He does albums, he does singles, does radio airplay, whatever. But, what is to stop? Can you imagine if you could reunite the Smiths in hologram form? There's something about that where, well, Morrissey and Johnny wouldn't have to be in the same room together. They could both just sign a document to say they give permission, and then we get reunited Smiths.
I don't know. I don't think I'd enjoy that too much.
Well, you might not enjoy it, but there's a big market out there who would, I bet.
Do you think Morrissey would like to be a hologram? Do you think he would accept that? Maybe if it meant he didn't have to get out of bed,
Yeah.
that'd be quite nice.
I think he probably would quite
But
like that
he loves
idea.
being on stage, though. He loves that. He loves
Yeah.
that. He loves that feeling. So
Don't know. I mean, I can totally see a world in which Morrissey would hate the idea of a hologram, but then I also think, like you say, like he wouldn't have to fly around the world all the time.
an interactive. How would that be? How would that go?
Yeah, there is an interactive side with Morrissey gigs. Yeah, and also
Because you mentioned interactive on there, like some sort of media that's interactive. But like
Yeah.
you say, that's a good link, as I didn't think that. I thought interactive, they like what, some sort of video game. But actually, you're right that when I go to a Morrissey concert, it is that connection that's
Yeah.
just probably as important as being there for the songs. Because
Yeah.
especially if you go to 5 shows, you've heard the songs. So yeah.
And I mean, so Jessica did the tarot for Are We Gonna Get a new album in the next 12 months, and she picked the Hanged Man and basically said the answer's no, because he's in contemplation mode. She also said that she believes he's getting lots of offers and he's always rejecting them. There is a world of stuff that Morrissey could do. He could do a podcast, he could get Twitter, he could do a masterclass on lyric writing. Like, he must be getting loads of offers. Let's just hope it won't be long before we see some of this stuff, even if it's just that album.
I wonder what offers he might have had. You said masterclass. That's
Yeah,
interesting.
masterclass.
Do you think he's ever been offered to go on the Big Brother house?
Yeah.
Because he'd be good on there.
Him and who's the woman from How Clean Is Your House?
Aggie, yeah.
Aggie and
Aggie,
Morrissey. That would
something,
be
yeah.
beautiful.
It'd be good telly. They'd probably have to offer him a lot of money to go on there.
Yeah.
And what is Fraudry Hepburn? It sounds like a good drag queen.
Does sound like a very good drag queen. I don't know, maybe it is a drag queen. But obviously, that was in the context of a discussion about Morrissey supporting Jermaine Greer. Jermaine Greer, obviously, a very famous feminist. I'd be very surprised if I'm telling anyone that for the first time. But she is on a side of things on the trans debate with J.K. Rowling, and it sounded like Jessica might have some sympathies with that side of things. And it's not a political podcast. We don't want to go into it too deeply. But what I will say is, I do think we need to hear those voices. There would be a temptation here to just snip that bit out of the interview, and like, oh, let's just not talk about TERFs but it's all part of the fabric of life, and we need to discuss these things. So I don't know who Fraudry Hepburn is, but I was interested to.
Let's hope it's a good drag queen.
Yeah. Let's hope.
And
it's a
they
drag queen.
might be coming to do a show.
Yeah.
from Australia.
Okay. So that is it for this episode of Morrissey and Wine. Now, just to say, Chris and I will both be at Moz Army next weekend, May 17th and 18th. We've printed out a load of flyers which have a QR code on so that you can subscribe to the podcast or the fanzine or the WhatsApp. We're going to be handing those out in the queue outside the Star and Garter. So come and say hello to us. We'll come and say hello to you first, probably. It'll be great to meet you. And that's about it. Anything you wanted to add, Chris?
Thank you, George. No.
Thank you, and Godspeed.
And yes, Godspeed.